Update. Despite my earlier statement about wanting a divorce, deep down, I clung to hope that our relationship could be salvaged. After DDAY1, I gave my wife an opportunity to reconsider everything: the family, the future of our children, and us. I didn't engage in the pick-me dance, or at least, not overtly. During the past month, as I grappled with PTSD and minor depression stemming from DDAY1, my wife remained cold and distant. She displayed no signs of remorse or regret, yet I remained patient. This proved to be a monumental mistake. Enter DDAY2. There had been some suspicious occurrences, such as early morning phone calls and one instance where she spent 3 hours in a specific location between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m., near a hotel. So, yesterday, I decided to place a voice-activated recorder in her car. And today, I retrieved it, which means I had only 1 day of recording. I connected the VAR to my computer and listened to the recordings. In one of them, I heard her initiating a phone call while driving home to a man. Initially, I thought it might be a coworker, but as their conversation unfolded, they discussed Thursday. She and this man were planning to take Thursday off, and he humorously mentioned he could only find an apartment for 3 hours, not a whole day. My wife laughed and expressed disbelief at their bad luck. The ease with which they discussed this apartment-hotel arrangement was unbearable to me. I can't come to terms with this level of betrayal. Even now, my legs and arms are trembling. I'd like to remind you that this is happening while I'm in therapy twice a week dealing with the emotional shock and wounds she inflicted. This is happening while one of my daughters made a wish for her flower to bring mommy and daddy together to live in peace as one family. I shared this with my wife, but she dismissed it and couldn't care less. Okay. I confronted her immediately and asked about her plans for Thursday. What are your plans for Thursday? I inquired. She replied, oh, nothing special, just work. We have a management meeting, so I might be late. All right, so you won't be taking Thursday off? I probed. She replied, of course not, I'll be working. Well, what about the strange coincidence that there's no available apartment for the entire Thursday, only for 3 hours? I questioned. She froze. How do you know about this? I provided a few more details from their conversation to ensure she grasped that there was no point in lying. She displayed no remorse, offered no apologies, just a cold "I have nothing to say." At that point, I told her that this marked the definitive end of our story and our marriage. I would be filing for divorce. I reminded her that she caused this devastation to me and our children while I had been considering the possibility of reconciliation. I gave her a chance, and this was the result. It's abundantly clear that she continued the affair even after DDAY1, despite her promise to end it and seek individual counseling. None of these commitments materialized. I'm in shock. To be honest, listening to their conversation and realizing the nature of their relationship has completely rattled me. I'm still in shock. Perhaps I should have asked a friend to listen to this horrendous discovery. I clearly wasn't prepared for it. She did this after DDAY1, while we were still married, and while we have 3 children. This has become the final push for me toward divorce. I'm still struggling to come to terms with the reality of it all. Update. I appreciate your advice, and you're right, I'm in the midst of an emotional storm, making it incredibly difficult to let go. But to be honest, the recent revelation, the planned SX session and a day taken off specifically for it, was a clear and brutal sign that my wife intended to continue the affair secretly and was even willing to use one of her holiday days to conceal it. Imagine this: she would have gone to work, dressed up professionally in the morning, kissed the kids, exchanged pleasantries, and then spent an entire day in an apartment with the AP instead of going to the office. She might have even cooked for him. And afterward, she would return home as if nothing had happened, discussing how tough her day at work had been, and so on. This is so far beyond anything I can even describe. Why can't she simply say, I want to be with this guy, and leave? At least that was her plan. However, after I informed her that I knew about their Thursday rendezvous and demonstrated that both her voice and the AP's voice were recorded, making their intentions clear, something unusual occurred. The next day, she told me she had canceled the planned session, and 2 days later, she promised never to cheat on me again. I asked her, with a hint of sarcasm, well, this is really charming, but could you please tell me why you've reached this decision? Her response was, it's my decision, without any willingness to disclose the reasons behind it. She also mentioned that she remained uncertain about our relationship. During this conversation, she never inquired about my perspective or seemed to care. She continues to be cold and distant, avoiding communication with me. I still don't know the true identity of the AP, but I've made some progress. Through an internal contact, I learned that 2 individuals were fired from the department where my wife worked 2 weeks ago. One of them was her boss, and the other was a coworker. One of them is the AP, as my wife was quite upset the day after these individuals were terminated. When I asked why, she claimed she was uncertain about the recent changes and needed her boss's assistance, suggesting that her new boss was unhelpful. I'm about 90% sure that the AP was her boss. I also know their names now. I'm still conducting some research to identify the AP's partner, but I'm making progress, I believe. It's quite amusing, really, because she even lied about this, stating previously that the AP worked in a different department. This means that after DDAY1, she worked alongside this guy every day. When I confronted her with this information, she merely shrugged and made a peculiar face, as if to say, "So what?" I lied. When I asked why, she responded, "I lied so much because I was probably unhappy." Okay, but even if I'm unhappy, I don't become a liar, a betrayer, or a backstabber. She had no response to that. Update: it appears she consulted with a lawyer and informed me that she no longer wants to contribute to the monthly mortgage and car lease payments. She suggested I keep a record of this and can claim the missing payments during the final settlement. Her reasoning is that my salary is much higher than hers, and she doesn't want to be left without any money while still wanting to stay in the house. She mentioned that divorce isn't urgent for her, she just wants to explore her options. She also claimed to have ended the physical aspect of her affair, but it seems she's unwilling to completely sever ties with the affair partner. I told her this was unacceptable to me. If she can't go completely no contact with the affair partner, then the affair is ongoing, and I don't want to spend any time with her if she's still in any form of contact with him. I asked her to make a choice, and after some hesitation, she said, "I choose my kids." I explained that she can't have both worlds, a comfortable life here with the option to contact the affair partner while giving me nothing emotionally or physically. It's like having a parasite in my life that drains my energy, money, and gives nothing in return except pain. I informed her that from now on, I will cover the mortgage, car loan, insurance, and utility costs to ensure our kids have a home with basic necessities. However, household and food expenses are now her responsibility. We will eat and drink what she buys with her own money. Action plan: next week, I will meet with my lawyer again and ask her to help me navigate this situation, minimizing the loss of assets and money while prioritizing the well-being of our kids. My wife, the woman who betrayed me in the worst possible way, cheated on me repeatedly, and lied constantly, still shows no remorse or regret and wants to live her life at my expense, without considering me or caring about me. This combination is the worst I can imagine. There's nothing left for me in this relationship. I'm heading for divorce. I've lost all hope. Update: I'm truly thankful for finding this site filled with intelligent and empathetic people who have experienced similar situations. Sharing my story with those who have overcome similar challenges and can view my case rationally has been invaluable. I recognize that my emotions and sentimental attachment to my wife have clouded my judgment. The emotional shock I experienced left me unable to take meaningful action. It remains extremely difficult to accept that someone I would have given my life to could betray me multiple times and cheat on me simply because it felt good. The second D-Day made it abundantly clear, if there were any doubts, that she feels absolutely no remorse or regret about her affair and has no concern for me. Cheating has become her lifestyle. It's as if her weekly schedule includes 4 days of work, 1 fun day with her lover, and then returning home to her family. It's truly despicable. This is the reality now, and this is who she has become. I'm seeing a therapist, one of the top 10 therapists in Hungary, and she confirmed that I suffered shock, trauma, and have PTSD, which could take a long time to heal from. My wife was aware of all this and still planned a day-long affair behind my back. The sadness, disappointment, and negative feelings are indescribable. As for the practical aspects, while I am eager to proceed with divorce, I also want to find the affair partner's spouse and inform her of the entire story, even if it requires hiring a private investigator. I acknowledge that it is a moral obligation to allow the other wife to make an informed decision about her relationship. However, another strong motivation behind this desire is that I don't want the affair partner to simply walk away after destroying my family with no consequences. He might move on to another victim within 3 to 6 months, while we are left with a shattered marriage for years. Is this acceptable? Perhaps strategically, I should maintain a low profile for now and let events unfold so the private investigator can gather useful information to achieve my goal. Next week, I will consult with my lawyer about my exit strategy and how to proceed intelligently. I will follow every step she recommends and avoid actions that could be detrimental to my case. Update: the unfortunate truth is that you were all right about everything. I was naive and made numerous mistakes. I have to admit, I was simply not prepared for this situation. Initially, I believed that our case, our love, was unique and somehow an exception. I thought I could make it work by trying harder. I believed that demonstrating how much I care about her or how much I love her, even after D-Day 1, and bringing up arguments like our 3 children and 15 years of marriage history would mean something. But none of it meant anything to her. She continued cheating, or at least planned to do so behind my back while I was in a therapy session. She knew she had caused me severe emotional and mental damage, and instead of supporting or helping me, she chose to backstab me and lie to me again. This is who she is now. This is what she did to me. The pick-me dance doesn't work, it only encourages her to continue the affair. You were also right about the fact that my wife has absolutely no remorse, no regret, and is extremely selfish. I thought I knew her. I thought she respected me. Now, all I see is that she lives here, communicates, and cares only about the children. She reduced her financial contribution to the household to what she considers an acceptable level. She simply stated she is not sure what to do, and now she's essentially in a cake-eating mode. And if one day she decides she still wants to meet her affair partner again, she would tell me before, and then it's not considered cheating. Can you believe this? How can anyone live like this? This is what she's offering me now. I feel that her main fear is losing custody of her children, possibly 50% custody, because I have a VAR recording and other evidence that could question her commitment and moral standards. She doesn't fear losing me personally, only perhaps the wealth and the easy, comfortable life that comes with me. My soul, personality, or me as a human being, she doesn't give a care. This is the harsh truth I have to accept. As for the affair partner, I have a phone number. I didn't have access to her company phone, but I noticed that her personal phone automatically connects to her car audio system. So, one day I suggested using her car to take the children to school, and while she was away, I accessed the car's menu system. I clicked on the phone menu and immediately saw the call history. I jumped to the date when the compromising VAR recording was made and identified the phone number she called. Now, I'm trying to check this phone number and identify the AP's identity. I've also requested the full call history from my wife's personal phone, as I am the main subscriber and have the right to obtain it. If it's not possible to identify the AP, then I will hire a private investigator to conduct further investigation. I am determined to find the AP's wife and tell her the truth. Next week, I will consult with my lawyer about my next steps. Yes, I'm certain she saw a lawyer. I can still see her calendar entries and location, and on the mentioned day, there was an entry like Lawyer at 11 a.m. at a downtown location. As I mentioned, on that day, she came home telling me that from now on she would not pay the monthly installments for loans so that she would have some money, and the difference would be deducted at the final settlement. I have to check this with my lawyer. Also, I noticed that she's trying her best to show she's a good mother. Of course, her core personality, extreme selfishness, radiates through this attempt, and she still hasn't planned anything for the children for the weekend. She got really mad when I asked about her plans with the kids. She asked me if I'm gathering evidence for the court, which I didn't understand. I just wanted to ensure the children have a good time. The news is that on Sunday, she told me that it was very hard for her to work on our relationship lately, and divorce might be a better option. Not that she actually worked on the relationship even a single bit after D-Day. She also told me she didn't lie to me, and I did nothing to fix our relationship in the past few weeks. Both of these statements are obvious lies. First, she hasn't been truthful in the last 3 months, and second, I tried to talk to her honestly and openly about what happened, which she refused every time, becoming irritated by the mere fact that I wanted to communicate with her. In fact, after D-Day, she became like a roommate, separated, cold, and stonewalled. I think, and this is really hard to accept, she prefers to be a single mom with 3 kids and be a mistress of a married man rather than saving our marriage and working on the issues that went wrong. She is totally fine with the possibility that our marriage will be ruined and the other marriage will remain intact. So our children will be in a nuclear family and the other family could remain the same. She is fine with this. Well, I am not fine with this at all, and I will shed light on the situation in a big way. I still want to inform the other betrayed wife and want to hire a private investigator to find her. I'm also gathering all the information needed for the divorce and even joined a club that focuses on the rights of fathers because unfortunately, here, I've heard many stories about how decisions are biased towards mothers and fathers basically lose much more than their spouses. Update: this morning, I discovered that my wife continues the relationship with her AP. After DDAY2, she told me she would cut all physical contact but keep the option to talk to him. Then, I made it clear that for me, only no contact is acceptable as a bare minimum. I defined this as my personal boundary. Today, I noticed several messages on our iPad coming from her girlfriend called Sabina. This is the real name of her female friend from university. However, the content of those messages seemed very strange, like call now, and my wife responded with wait until Monday, followed by, as a reply. I checked the phone number associated with this account and looked up the number in the local phone registry, which gave me the address as well. It turns out the name belonged to her former boss. Now, I know that her former boss was the AP, and she named this contact Sabina to deceive me. So, I now know the full identity of the AP, along with his phone number and address. My plan is to inform the AP's wife. I will definitely do this. After DDAY1, DDAY2, and numerous other discoveries in between, filled with lies and deceit, I've reached the point of no return. The only option left is divorce. After all of this, I don't want to stay with her anymore. I've tried everything from my side to save our marriage for 2 months, and she has only responded with further lies, deceit, cheating, backstabbing, and zero respect for my needs. This has to stop. Regarding the divorce, according to my lawyer, if I leave the house, I risk my chances of even getting 50% custody because in Hungary, if you leave the house, the judge may assume that you left your family intentionally for whatever reason, making you appear unreliable. To counter this, I need to come to an agreement with my wife regarding child custody and alimony before I move out. The discussion about assets is a separate legal proceeding. If I stay, I have to continue living with this person and endure all the pain she will likely inflict upon me. I fear for my health and mental stability. She doesn't want to leave the house. In fact, she's entirely okay with the situation. Daddy pays for almost everything and takes care of the children, while Mommy can have adventures and stay in contact with the AP as she pleases. But I want to disrupt her comfortable fantasy life and make her face the consequences. I plan to sit down with her to discuss children and assets. If we can't reach an agreement, then this week, I'll have to file for divorce without an agreement and let the judge decide on everything, which will, of course, be lengthy and very risky. The AP, who was her former boss, was fired from his job and left the company in mid-April for undisclosed reasons. It's unclear whether this was related to the affair or due to some other internal conflict. What's certain is that the next day, my wife was deeply upset and crying. At the time, I wasn't aware that the AP was her boss, and she told me she was feeling down because of the uncertain future due to organizational changes in her job. I tried to comfort her, be understanding, and even invited her to join us for some family activities with the kids. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to believe her words and try to please her. By the way, the AP is living in a relatively low-income neighborhood in an apartment with his family. Compared to our standard of living, it's a significant step down. It seems like they always choose to have affairs with people from less affluent backgrounds. Regarding the messaging issue I mentioned in my last post, it turns out that my wife was the one who proactively asked for a phone conversation with the AP 3 times via messages, not him. He told her that they could talk, but not until Monday. After that, SHE was the one who sent the face emoji. What she did while sitting on the couch with me and the kids watching a movie feels incredibly degrading. My gut feeling is that the other party might be pulling away a bit after learning that I have recordings of both of them discussing their next Seoul encounter. However, this doesn't change the overall situation. Yesterday, she asked me to go to a lawyer together, and she mentioned that she wants to keep the house and have at least 50% custody of the children. I told her that or more is unacceptable to me. I also mentioned that, in the event of filing based on infidelity, if I have to provide evidence of the affair, the judge might consider me as a stable, honest, and reliable parent and grant me custody. I don't intend to go in that direction, but I wanted her to know my opinion. She doesn't know what evidence I have, but she got very scared and blamed me for documenting her actions. Later, she calmed down and told me she's gone no contact with the AP as of today and that the entire affair is over. This marks the 3rd time she's declared the affair over. She also mentioned that even though she's ending the affair, it doesn't necessarily mean she wants to continue with me. She's still unsure about our relationship. So, it's the same old story, she can't make up her mind, wants to stay, and one day she might not come home. Unfortunately, I've seen this before. What I can't understand is why she can't just say, I've fallen in love with someone else, thank you for the 16 years, let's part ways amicably and divorce peacefully. Instead, she stays because she prefers to have her cake and eat it too. But that will ultimately lead to our divorce. Yesterday, I informed her that I'll be meeting with my lawyer this Friday to discuss the terms of our divorce. In Hungary, the agreements related to family matters like custody, alimony, spouse support, and contact rights are separate from decisions regarding asset separation. By law, spouse support will be zero in her case due to her infidelity. She seemed taken aback and unprepared for this news, as if she was starting to realize the gravity of the situation. She couldn't provide any answers to the questions I raised, nor could she express her opinions on the principles of family separation. She did express some blame towards me, mentioning that I seemed very well prepared for this. I reminded her that she's the one who put me in this position, and I refused to remain in a marriage marked by betrayal, infidelity, and lies. After 2 months of giving her time to reconsider, she chose to continue the affair, behind my back. Trust has completely eroded. To be honest, on Monday, when she claimed she was done with the affair, I even offered her 6 months of marriage counseling to give it a genuine try. However, when I inquired about it later, she said, I'm not sure I want to use this opportunity. I haven't decided yet. I replied that if she couldn't decide, then I would make the decision myself. Since she couldn't come to any agreements or engage in an adult, civil conversation about these issues during our discussion, primarily remaining silent, she will receive a draft of the lawsuit on Friday. I'll give her a week to contemplate it and come back to me with a counteroffer if she wishes. If she doesn't respond, then I'll proceed with my version and let the court decide on everything, including examining all the reasons, including the details of her adultery. I made it clear that I prefer to avoid this route in her case, but the choice is ultimately hers. Regardless of the circumstances, I aim to provide her with a fair offer. My friends have advised me to prepare for the worst, given her track record as a proven liar and backstabber. We'll see how things unfold. In the European Union, recording conversations without the consent of all parties involved is not legally permissible. However, you can use such recordings as evidence. It's up to the other party to initiate legal action due to the recording. Therefore, you must weigh the potential benefits and drawbacks of revealing the content of the recording. If, in the end, the advantages gained by using the evidence outweigh the potential fines you may have to pay, it becomes a rational choice to use it. Personally, I have no regrets about recording my wife's phone call because it provided crucial information and revealed her true intentions. It exposed her as a deceitful cheater who had a much deeper connection with the AP than she had let on. While it was difficult to listen to their conversation, it ultimately solidified my decision to stop considering reconciliation and proceed with a divorce. Looking back, I used to dwell on the 2 months I spent hesitating about what to do. However, I now believe that I needed to attempt to save the marriage, and more importantly, I needed to see that my wife made no effort to salvage our relationship, despite knowing that it meant losing me forever. She simply didn't care, and that message became crystal clear to me. I've also started to suspect that there may be some covert narcissistic personality traits or a personality disorder at play here. I began noticing this a couple of years ago when my wife consistently lacked empathy in certain situations and always prioritized her own needs and desires. Another noticeable aspect of our relationship was the absence of deep emotional conversations. She seemed to lack the ability to engage in discussions about emotions. She was extremely sensitive to any form of criticism, to the point where I felt I couldn't even express the slightest negative comment about her without receiving the silent treatment for days. I interpreted this as a sign of low self-confidence and tried to avoid criticizing her. Instead, I attempted to be constructive and help boost her self-esteem. Unfortunately, this led to a lack of honest communication between us, as it often felt like I was walking on eggshells. To provide some background information, her father displays very selfish and narcissistic behaviors. After her mother's passing, he quickly introduced a new girlfriend to the family, disregarding the emotional turmoil it caused his children and grandchildren. He essentially abandoned his old family for the new one and severed all ties with us, showing a complete lack of concern for his remaining family members. I was appalled at how someone could behave this way, discarding their family of 30 years as if they were an old car. It was truly unbelievable. I can't help but feel that this genetic predisposition towards narcissistic personality disorder is manifesting in my wife's behavior. Her affair partner came into the picture, and she displays no remorse, empathy, or attention to her previous partner, me. She doesn't pretend to care and has turned her focus entirely in another direction, showing no concern for those she left behind. She appears to feel no guilt about her actions and continues to enjoy herself, making plans for the future while everyone else around her is left in ruins. I've spoken to my lawyer and initiated divorce proceedings. After 2 months, there were no signs of reconciliation from her side. I caught her 2 more times within those 2 months after DDAY1. The final straw was when I discovered she was trying to communicate with the affair partner using a fake name in her contacts, clearly attempting to conceal her affair. This demonstrated that she actively sought the attention of another man. It became painfully clear that she didn't care about anything but continuing the affair, despite all my efforts to salvage our marriage. She seems completely indifferent to the fact that our broken family and traumatized children will pay the price. It's hard to express how much I resent her for this. Regarding informing the other betrayed spouse, I've discussed it with many friends, and opinions are split about what to do. Right now, I feel like revealing the affair would be the final step I need to take, both from an ethical standpoint and as a way to seek a small measure of revenge, to rattle the affair partner, make him feel scared, and maybe even panicked. After that, I would consider my mission to be completed. I've made the decision to inform the other betrayed spouse. I won't let the affair partner walk away without facing consequences, and the OBS deserves to know what I now know. It infuriates me that my wife seems perfectly fine with destroying our family but might be angry with me if my actions regarding the OBS have similar consequences. Does she value the two families differently? Is she protecting the AP more than our own family and kids? It's both ridiculous and deeply disappointing. Today, I'll contact a private investigator and request them to identify the OBS. Once I have this information, I'll hold on to it until my wife signs the agreement on child custody, alimony, contact arrangements, and living arrangements, after which we will jointly file for divorce in court. Honestly, communicating with her is incredibly difficult. She's completely closed off. I know she received the mail about the divorce agreement, but she hasn't approached me or communicated with me about it in any way. When I brought it up over the weekend, her initial reaction was that she needed to consult with her attorney first. I told her I'm open to discussing any changes or suggestions because this has to be something we mutually agree upon, especially with shared custody. Slowly, she began to mention some points she wanted to address differently but was uncertain. She kept saying she needed more time than the 15 days. I asked how much more, and she couldn't provide an answer. So, I told her I wouldn't wait indefinitely, and I've set a firm deadline of June 15th, end of day. She mumbled something in response and nodded. I have a feeling that divorce wasn't part of her plans. She likely intended to continue seeing her affair partner while still in the marriage, just as the AP did. Unfortunately for her, I discovered the affair quite early. I'm almost certain that the OBS has no knowledge of the situation. I've scheduled an appointment with the attorney for June 16th. By that time, we will either file with an agreement or I will file, which is potentially a riskier and longer process. It involves presenting evidence, hearing witnesses, and revealing why the marriage ended like this, which can be more embarrassing for her and the AP since the hearings are public. I'm considering inviting the OBS to this process to let her hear what my wife has to say about the affair under oath. After the attorney officially files the divorce papers, signed by both my wife and me, I'll inform the OBS. Initially, I struggled with a decision. My logical side urged me to pursue a divorce as soon as possible, while my heart desperately wanted to do everything I could to salvage my relationship with my beloved wife. However, it turns out that the woman I loved no longer exists. I'm not sure what she has become, perhaps a remorseless, cold, distant, and incredibly selfish stranger. After discovering that she continued the affair, lied repeatedly, and cheated multiple times following DDAY1, I made up my mind. I can't continue living with a serial cheater who doesn't love or respect me and seems to care very little about me. Divorce is now my unwavering decision, and there's no turning back from this point. So far, I've received no response or reply of any kind to my divorce offer. When I inquired about it a week ago, she mentioned that her lawyer was on vacation for 2 weeks, so I gave her an additional week to consider her response. I also informed her that by the end of the day on June 15th, we should reach an agreement. Otherwise, I will proceed with my version and ask the court to make a decision based on facts, evidence, and witnesses. This alternative is considerably more time-consuming, which is why I preferred to reach an agreement. It's possible that she won't respond at all, perhaps hoping that our legal system might favor women over men in divorce proceedings, making an agreement unnecessary since she might win anyway. The outcome can vary significantly depending on the judge we get, making this process somewhat like gambling. The problem is, if we can't reach an agreement, 50% custody is off the table because the judge will conclude that the parents can't communicate or agree on important matters. Living together while separated has proven to be mentally and emotionally unhealthy. Our communication has dwindled to mere good mornings and good nights. She interacts with me only in relation to the children and treats me like a ghost or a roommate. She's reduced her financial contribution to the household to a very low amount, covering only the mortgage, car loan, utilities, and household expenses, including groceries. It's a meager contribution given our family home with a spacious garden in the suburbs. Meanwhile, she continues to see her affair partner. It's a perplexing situation that requires a certain level of sociopathic tendencies to live with. Here's an update. With the assistance of a private investigator, I managed to uncover the identity of the OBS. I reached out to her on Facebook, shared details about the affair, and offered her the opportunity to contact me if she had any questions. However, I received a message from her after a week, and it left me somewhat puzzled. The message went like this: Dear M, thank you for the information. In the future, please do not contact me in any form. Regards. My initial thought was that the AP might have intercepted the message and replied in this manner to cut off contact. But could it be that the wounded OBS reacted this way? That she simply doesn't want any form of contact with me after I revealed the affair? Perhaps she prefers not to know more? What do you think the chances are? Here's the summary. The OM was indeed my wife's direct superior, and she mentioned a bribery case involving her boss to me after about 2 weeks from DDAY. However, she never informed me about the outcome of this case. 2 weeks later, the company fired her boss and another coworker, citing office politics as the reason. Given her history of lies, there is doubt about the actual reasons for their dismissal. In terms of informing the OBS, I sent a message on Facebook last Tuesday, but it remained unread for a week. Eventually, I received a short and somewhat strange response from her this morning. Additionally, you had a friend visit the OBS's workplace to hand over a letter about the affair, but she did not come down to receive it. Despite leaving her contact information, she never reached out. It's unclear why she didn't respond, and you're hesitant to continue pursuing contact. Regarding the divorce offer, even though child custody and financial support have been agreed upon, my wife still insists on alimony based on the difference in your salaries. She also wants to wait until the asset distribution process concludes before making any decisions about moving out. It seems like you're facing several complex and potentially challenging situations in your divorce proceedings, and the affair